Horrible Friends, Episode 2. For the love of horror. This episode, Robin and I will be expressing our great love for our most favorite horror franchises. Movies not necessarily intended to expand their universe, but their massive success led to more and more content. Obviously, all sequels were inspired by the original storyline and theme, right? Not every franchise does the original film justice, but all franchises have their hardcore fans and their reasons for making more. So take a ride with us through our very own personal favorite horror film franchises and why we love them so much. Welcome to Horrible Friends. You can find me at Twisted Bunny Fine Arts on Blue Sky, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram if you want to check out my artwork. Or HFX Horror Fest on Facebook and Instagram if you want to check out our horror events.
Hey, you guys can find me at Bear Iron Eye on YouTube and on Blue Sky, and most recently on my Patreon.
For now, our episodes will be released monthly, right in the middle of the month, so follow us to keep up.
Alright, so you know, and well, everyone who knows me is aware, that I'm a huge sci-fi fan. In fact, I'm probably more of a sci-fi fan, really, than a horror fan, in a way. Like, my love of sci-fi kind of exceeds my horror, horror cred, so to speak.
Thankfully, there's a lot of crossover.
There is a lot of crossover, and actually that's what I want to talk about today. Because, look, I want to talk about, and I know we've discussed this a little bit because we have somewhat differing views on the franchise I'm going to discuss today. I want to talk about why the Alien and Aliens franchise began and really was, in my opinion, pure horror, even though it had a sci-fi setting. And I know you said you feel a bit differently about it, right?
Yeah.
My main points here. I mean, sci-fi horror as a thing is its own sort of genre. When the original Alien was made, I feel like it was intended as a pure horror, and it was made to be a pure horror rather than focusing on the sci-fi aspects too much. I think that sort of sets it apart, from other franchises in that way.
I find it's one of the more suspenseful.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was a thriller too. And I think, obviously, since, and I'll talk about this more in detail in a little bit, since the original movie came out, so much has taken place in that universe. It's definitely evolved into more of a sci-fi, sort of like just a pure sci-fi kind of storyline and sci-fi setting.
Yep.
Up to and including like the creation of the human race.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With like Prometheus and all that stuff.
The deep dive.
Yeah. No, it's a total deep dive through it. But there's a couple of points I wanted to make about why, like, my thesis here is that Alien, the original Alien, and to some degree the second Aliens are really just pure horror before anything else. I mean, one of the things that, like, we look at when we talk about, like, horror films, some of the things that make horror films into horror films are that keep them in the realm of horror specifically, are things like the way that the setting is used rather than what the setting is itself, in a way. So, for instance, in the original Alien movie, the space and the ships and the sci-fi and all that stuff really they're just the setting without themselves being like a focus for the story.
Yeah, you don't really think about the fact that they're in space. You just think about the fact that they're really isolated. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just used to add more horror factor. Like, when you're in space, when you talk about sci-fi horror, things like, well, Alien being sort of like the big one that everyone usually thinks about, but things like I don't know, it's like Event Horizon and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, Pandora. Part of the horror also comes from the fact that, like, you're in space, so your existence is a lot more fragile than if you're like on Earth and you can escape. It's the setting itself makes it so that you can't escape. There's no escape. You are stuck in that situation.
Yeah, like
and that's, I think, in
like the deep sea stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah, and in Alien, I think that's what the setting of space is for in that original movie. It's sort of it's just there to make to set up why the situation is so horrifying, right? And also why the personal dynamics between the characters exist.
Yeah.
And Alien actually was one of those movies that, in a lot of horror movies, especially ones that have come out recently, particularly in like post like zombie movies, you get a lot of like the personal dynamics become their own sort of facet of the horror, like how people kind of turn on each other. And you didn't really get that as much in Alien. Like Alien was really about like how these group of survivors.
Well, they were
tried.
already a specially selected team of people they already knew could work together for long periods of time in isolation. So yeah.
Yeah, they were professionals to some degree.
Yeah.
To some degree. Yeah, and
Mostly
yeah,
Ash.
So really, mostly. Well, I'm going to come to Ash actually in another point. For me, that's one of the things that sort of sets it apart as like a pure, horror movie. And I always watch it as a horror movie, experience. Like when I watch it, it's the kind of thing that I would watch with my friends, and I'd say like, if people who haven't watched it, I would say like this is a horror movie, right?
Yeah.
If it sets up this like vulnerability, everyone's vulnerable. There's no escape, and use the way that setting was used also makes this sort of preeminent sense of horror in the movie more of an aspect of the story than the sort of technicalities of the space and the ship and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you often forget about that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things where like the story takes place inside an extremely small area because of the way that story's set up. Mm-hmm. So everything that's happening, these characters
very
know
restricted.
Their ship.
Yeah.
And they kind of know their ship inside and out. They know it's not like a mysterious, like we're going to a haunted house and we don't know what to experience. Yeah. We know what this space is. We know how it functions. We know what these places are for, what we're going to find there, how we can use those spaces. The familiarity with the space sets up this sense of like, well, now our space has been like invaded when the organism, comes onto the ship. That's another thing that you find specifically in horror movies, the sense that like a personal space has been invaded by something that is
pretty
trying
similar
to do you.
It's not the same kind of isolation. There's some escape. But...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's that. The way the setting is used to produce horror, that is the point. That it is sort of
the atmosphere.
Yeah. And you mentioned there's another one. You mentioned Ash. The idea of artificial humans. The fact that to some degree he's such a mysterious character in the first Alien, whereas in subsequent. In subsequent movies, you know that the characters are androids, and that aspect of their character is something that kind of feeds into the story.
I have something interesting to say about that. Not to assume that the things that I say are interesting. But, so I wonder if that theme is because of her massive distrust for androids after Ash. Because she was super not into trusting Bishop for a long time in the second movie. And eventually she had to trust him, right? And they actually became quite close. Because Bishop wasn't the same kind of android as Ash, and I believe that the people that put her on this mission understood that they absolutely needed her full trust, and if they were going to put her in that position again, that they would never be able to get her to work with them.
No, yeah, that's actually a very good point. And actually that comes up again in Prometheus and all the subsequent stuff.
Yeah, okay, cool. I haven't seen a lot of the newer ones, so.
The subsequent movies really lean into the sci-fi, and it's partly because, just like Star Wars, there's so much expanded universe stuff that it kind of became this massive sci-fi setting. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to talk about something that I find really interesting about that later. But yes, the thing with Ash is that there's definitely a point where the audience gets to know, before the characters do, I should say. That's a very purposeful suspense builder.
And I love when movies execute that well, because it doesn't happen anymore. They just don't put that much effort into movies anymore. So when they really do it, it feels really, satisfying.
Well, not to sound like an old man, but Alien was made at a time when the way we consume media has changed so much from.
It's no longer consuming art; it's distraction now. It's not about consumption of art and sharing information. It's about distracting yourselves to death.
Yeah, there's that too. I think part of the thing is that like in movies from the 80s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, when you were telling a story, you could set stuff up. Something you set up in the beginning of the movie, but it was 2 hours long, could be paid off at the end.
Yeah.
It's so easy now for people to sort of forget. A lot of movies now, I don't want, everyone consumes media differently, but because I grew up watching movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I've really noticed it when you're watching a movie and then something is kind of set up, right? Like when you're watching a movie, you can tell when something's being set up.
Usually,
something is set up, and then it's paid off within 10 minutes.
Oh.
Versus, right?
That instant gratification. Instant gratification culture. Hashtag.
Well, I mean, that was one of the things that when I watched the newer Star Wars movies, that's something that, to someone like me who grew up watching like the original Star Wars movies, things would be set up from one movie that would be paid off in another. Whereas now it's sort of, everything has to be like, okay, here's a setup, and we're going to pay it off within 5 minutes because we don't think people are going to have paid attention and remember long enough.
Which, honestly, in my opinion, seems more of a terrible assumption.
I agree. No, there's definitely a lot of... I think that comes more from top down than from...
Oh, 100%. Because now, anyway, we shouldn't even get started on that because that's a whole different conversation for me.
Yeah, we can actually we can do it. We can actually do an entire podcast.
Actually, well, that's it. I think we should definitely take we should definitely have a conspiracy fact episode.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That'd be amazing. We'll do that.
But yes, the overlords are trying to use media to control us, as they always have.
Yeah, that whole thing. Yeah, exactly. My point was to talk about the way things are set up in movies like Alien, and the idea of having these sort of like mysteries. The plot of Alien, like the whole thing that happened, everything that happened with Ash could have happened if he wasn't an android.
Yeah.
But it sort of made him a real outsider, and obviously Ian Holm.
Not just that.
Amazing.
That fight scene between him and Sigourney was awesome. Him, like the way he chose to fight, very logical, technological android shit right there. Yeah, and it's so thrilling to watch every time. Yeah, it was more thrilling to watch those two fight than it was to watch the alien fight anybody. For me.
No, I agree. I mean, it's no massive set piece lightsaber fight in the rain, but it's better. When he got like, that's something that sticks with me. When Ash was sort of like, his head was lying in milk with his tubes, pumping on the floor.
One of my favorite scenes, actually, from any movie. I think that it's a standalone, very unique scene. To be honest, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite that mimicked it. If that makes sense. Definitely things inspired by it, but it's really hard to recreate, especially with everybody wants to use special or CGI and stuff now.
Yeah, I actually hugely support. I always try to be supportive.
Practical effects, yeah. They do make a lot of modern films with practical effects. It's just they never get any funding.
Yeah, so. It's kind of making a comeback actually.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are really appreciating it, and a lot of people are gaining the rights again to use a lot of the puppets that used to be used, or like, you know, maybe the likeness of them. So
yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I'm not saying like good things can't be done with it. Like CGI is an incredible tool. Like, I mean, look at Lord of the Rings, right? I mean,
it can do lots. It's just, I wonder how long people really learn to use CGI before they start to try and make movies. Is all.
Yeah, I mean, these are all tools.
The budget was what?
So yeah, there was that, and then again, it was the idea of the character and the way that he was set up was sort of like an avenue to add more horror to a horror movie, and obviously the confined spaces and trying to figure out how to defeat this thing using the confined spaces.
Crawling through air vents and shit.
Yeah, that's like, again, it's all about vulnerability. That movie was very much about vulnerability.
Survival.
You know, especially when one of the scenes that always sticks with me is the scene when near the end when she has the ship he's trying to set it up for the self-destruct, and she has Jonesy in the crate and she puts him down to go do a thing. That's probably, in my opinion, the most suspenseful part of the movie. She's like, oh my god, is Jonesy gonna be okay? Yeah. Right?
And we're all like, is he?
I could not, like, during the end, even when I rewatched the movie, that's all I can think about for the rest of that until the end of the movie. And I mean, that basically, what I just said, all that stuff I just said basically covers my thesis of how the original Alien was strictly horror. And I kind of want to delve a bit into how it evolved into what essentially it is now, which is kind of like a sprawling sci-fi epic.
I was going to say, before you go on, because we had talked about this before or earlier, my thoughts based on the things I've heard from other people and like my personal opinion, I have always thought of Alien as a horror movie. I've honestly always thought of Alien, Aliens, and Alien 3 as movies. All three of them. But I can recognize them as action sci-fis as well. However, most of the people I talk to don't consider them horror at all. And I wonder if they just don't want to admit that they like horror movies.
I mean, there are some people who are just like, they find different things less scary. So to them,
That's
they're
fair.
not
It wasn't
consuming
scary
it
to them.
as horror.
Because, like, if someone wants to
Not
try
to
and
say
tell
that.
me that Event Horizon is a sci-fi and not a horror, I'm gonna be really confused. But a lot of
Yeah.
people do
Yeah.
because of the scientific element of the horror that exists in that movie. Some people do argue that it's not a horror film.
That's fair. Well, I mean, sci-fi and horror since the beginning of sci-fi is
They're,
sci-fi has always
they
been
have their own
sci-fi.
little flirty
Like,
relationship.
well, not even Frankenstein, written by Mary Shelley,
Science
is a sci-fi
fiction.
horror
Yeah.
and horror. It's about a guy who reanimates a bunch of corpses. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a sci-fi horror. But
Yeah.
in the Alien franchise, it sort of the evolution of the movie, and this actually happens in a lot of franchises where it sort of evolves from its original themes and stuff. As soon as the second movie came out, that's where you started getting. And I'm going to get a little less specific about the movies themselves, but some of the things that changed the franchise. The expansion of the lore around the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, specifically, and this happened in not just the movies but in the comics as well. You kind of came to understand how this one company had sort of become the primary sort of manufacturing, this sort of like oligarchic, overarching, villainous corporation that, through their use of technology, had sort of created the circumstances that led to all of these things, and you start getting.
Oh, that existential crap and
It's definitely, like, obviously in the first movie, like, obviously we get, Ash's directive to capture the alien as his primary motivation for basically like betraying the crew, right?
yeah. Ooh, potential capital.
Yeah, well, yeah. Once you start getting into the other movies, you start seeing how Wei-Yu and the Earth government sort of conspired to set up the circumstances that created, because later on we start getting things like
their logo looks like a fast food restaurant or something.
I mean, yeah, it's like it's a fictional corporate logo.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember if it's the one I think. It's like a
cool.
chicken riding a rocket or something crazy. Like I don't.
No. I think you're thinking this. Wei-Yu is just, it's sort of like it's like the W with the spaces filled in on a sort of weird techy kind of background, which ends up being used throughout the rest of the franchise.
Normally I notice that type of stuff, but that's just not one of the franchises that I pay that much attention to for those details, I guess.
So, yeah, the Wei-Yu stuff became an aspect of the sci-fi lore that changed the way the series kind of evolved. This company that's basically taken over Earth is sort of like, working behind the scenes. Like, obviously, they owned the ship, the Nostromo. They were the employers of Ellen and the team who went out. And they had this, without telling them, they basically treated them as like sacrifices in order to get this organism that they wanted for their illicit weapons program. And then once you start getting into, and I won't get too into the plot of Aliens 2 and stuff because I don't really need to, because again, that sort of, you get that as a setup, but then it delves back into horror with like the prison and the escape and the whole thing. Once we start getting into the third one and more of them, that's when we start really fleshing out this lore behind Earth. You start getting a real look at like the colonial Marines as characters, who they are, what they do, their technology, their tactics, and that sort of becomes more of a focus of the story. For me, that's where I notice it starts becoming less about horror and more about creating this setting that is really like sci-fi stories set in this universe, which I also love. When you start getting into these new mutations of the aliens, you start, because the alien in the original movie, despite all that we kind of knew about, you discovered all the things we discovered about it through the eyes of the characters.
Yeah.
Right? When you learned that it spit acid because they found it, someone got burned by acid. They found the acid had melted through the floor. You learned that it could, run through vents by someone encountering it doing that.
Yeah.
Right? That's where the horror came from. But now we're starting to get more into the science. You really get into like, here's how they breathe. Here's how they,
the biological
kind of
stuff. Yeah.
We're starting at point to like flesh out some of the mysteries. Like we're starting to take some of those mysteries that we see in the other movies and like unravel them and kind of figure out, what they are and what's like behind them and the science and that kind of stuff. And now we're starting to shift into this real sort of sci-fi era. And that's kind of when we start getting things like, you start getting like the books and the comics and the shorts coming out. I don't want to give the impression that I think it takes away. My point saying that is that it sort of fuels the need to create more and more intense versions of the things that we've...
You feel like because they've already shown us their deepest cuts, that now they have to come up
Yeah,
with
you
new
have to, like,
exciting things. Yeah,
you have to escalate.
it takes away from the depth a little bit when they bring everything to the surface so
Yeah, I
quickly.
mean, like if a lot of this stuff had come out around the time that Alien had come out, I think it would have taken away from it. But having sort of developed over the course of time that it developed, I think it added to the franchise rather than because I love this franchise. I love all this stuff that's going to kind of come out. I love all this lore. I think it really makes this this franchise something very unique and very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to come to something. There's like a turning point that I'm about to come to in a minute. I think that fleshing out what the alien really is and seeing like how it could be captured or how it could be killed, it's not that it takes away from the horror, but it starts to change it from a horror into something else. The turning point, as far as I'm concerned, that happens in the lore is when we combine the Alien series with the Predator series. Because at the time, obviously, that was sort of seen as like a cheap thing. But honestly, I think that was an amazing move.
I feel like the budget. Yeah, I feel like the budget wasn't very good for what they were trying to do. That's all.
AVP was very much. It was made to kind of be a bit of a B movie. It's like the Snakes on a Plane of the Alien series.
Well,
right?
I can't remember the guy's name who plays Bishop, but like his input in that movie is so weird.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wonderful.
It's just awkward like, the whole time. But
I mean, going back for a second because we talked for a minute there about H.R. Geiger, and I kind of wanted to get more into that for a second. Yeah. Geiger's art is amazing. Mm-hmm. Geiger, amazing artist, and his designs and his art from the original movie and what he did for the Alien franchise sort of inspired a lot of the stories. Because if you watch people talking about the original movie, there's that scene where they find the ship and they find the astronaut with like the weird elephant trunk helmet kind of frozen in place. That alone inspired a huge amount of content in terms of like extended series stuff, but it kind of also became the focal point of like Prometheus and Romulus and all those other movies, and like the plots of those movies are kind of based on questioning that sort of set piece and that what was created purely as like kind of as a bit of a background. And Ridley Scott himself talks about how when he was thinking when they were talking about extending the franchise, well, you have to go into what is this character, who is he?
Yeah, you have to create character depth.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So coupling it with the Predator series, you kind of that's when it becomes less about the franchise becomes less about horror, even though there's horror elements in it, and we start getting into telling this like galaxy-spanning story of competing sort of species and empires. That moment just exploded the lore in a way that people could like the amount of it kind of turned it into like a Star Wars-esque universe where people were like creating like the Predators became this culture and like you got stories about what their culture was and what their technology was, and that's kind of whereas again the same thing with Alien. When Predator came out, Predator was largely a horror movie because no one had any idea, and when I say no one, I mean the characters had any idea what they were looking at.
That's another one that I find most people, because I consider them both horror sci-fi, but so far everyone I talk to considers it like a sci-fi action, not horror at all.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, obviously, it was an Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie. It wasn't pure horror. It was more of an action movie with a horror theme.
Well, if you think about it, it's very militant. I think that's why a lot of people think of it more as an action movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the characters were instead of being sort of like innocent crew members who ended up with this thing, they were hunting something and they didn't know what it was, and then they became hunted. But they were big. It wasn't. It was less. It became about their vulnerability, but it didn't start off with them being, vulnerable characters.
Well, no, it started off with them being the typical macho, we can fucking take on anything, nobody can get in our way kind of behavior. Yeah,
exactly. They were the hunters. They weren't like oh shit, this surprise happened.
Yeah, we're the superior creatures of the universe.
Yeah.
Us in our tender, fleshy bodies.
I think that move, despite how it sort of was at the time, we're just going to combine a couple franchises, it kind of became this real like if you really delve nowadays, you can delve into the Predator. Like you go on YouTube, you'll find lore channels dedicated to the Predators.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right?
I'm sure there's thousands.
Their cultures and like how they interact with the aliens as like these beings that they hunt, and their this warrior culture and stuff. But the fact that these franchises are now so interlinked that they can't be untangled from each other has been a really interesting evolution to watch.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, I mean, people don't realize at the time these had nothing to do with each other,
No.
like nothing.
No, but when they did have something to
I
do with
love
each other, I'll tell you right now, I'm not a huge Predator. Like, I like the movies, but I stopped
yeah,
after AVP. I think I watched one.
yeah, that's good. It just happened to work and create this vast universe.
Well, it didn't. I don't think that universe would have been created at all if it didn't make people literally shit themselves everywhere. Like, most of my friends
Yeah,
are huge sci-fi fans. Not a lot of them are horror fans, as you noticed. But huge sci-fi fans. I had like 10, 20 friends. We have to go see all the fucking whatever movies Brandy get us in for free, and that was one of them, Alien versus Predator, I believe. And they just all lost their damn minds, and now Robert still doesn't shut the fuck up about it. So good for the people that love that connection, because it really it really exploded for them.
I think it. I mean, I think it like that connection specifically turned the franchise, like both of those franchises, into, because Predator would never have, like, it was kind of a standalone series that just like, it was just one action movie, a one-off, and I think there were a couple of other entries, but it was just like they became like B. But when they combined it with the Alien, it became like, it turned it into a massive, sprawling sci-fi epic universe.
I do feel like
Like,
it made it focus far more on Predator than Alien from then on. Like, I really feel like a lot of the Alien movies that came out after that were just like, oh, an alien exists.
To some degree, but you know what? If you go into, because the thing is, you still get these sort of communities that focus on one or the other, but you will find that there's just as much of one as the other. But I mean, my point is that the move to connect, like the time when those movies kind of overlapped and connected those franchises, it kind of became, that's a moment in time when both franchises exploded in a way that they kind of wouldn't have. Because now, when we get into the new ones like Prometheus and stuff, yeah, those movies there's not a hint of Predator lore or predators in those movies, right? But the lore, like the sort of explosion of like lore and stories around these creatures still is expanding from those movies. Like, they're still crossing over. It's just that the movies are not focusing on the crossover anymore. I just think culturally, that crossover event turned the movies sort of into.
It made a lot of people a lot of money.
Well, it made a lot of people a lot of money, but it kind of turned what were two separate franchises into something that, for fans, became something that like was more than just the two movies or the two series. The two series.
Like a Freddy versus Jason crossover. Obviously, it was much more substantial than that.
Yeah, well, it became more of like it turned it from a horror franchise, mostly the Alien franchise, from a horror franchise into more of a sci-fi franchise. I'm going to talk for a minute about at a certain point about some of the games, because those are actually really intense. I am going to bring it back to Aliens here specifically. I want to talk for a minute about how a lot of the newer media is now taking the franchise back into a horror, sort of like turning back on the sort of horror aspect of the series.
Now that they're realizing the horror stuff is big now again.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like you can see that cultural shift, right? Like Prometheus. Prometheus itself is less of a horror movie. It's more of a specifically a sci-fi with there's horror elements, obviously, but it's really, you get like, it's a story. It's a prequel story, really, right? Because it's about how the organisms have been discovered and stuff. But then Romulus started taking back the horror and turning it into more like a claustrophobic horror movie. One of the most important shifts back to horror for the Alien franchise has been a game called Alien Isolation.
Yeah, I've heard a lot.
Because a lot of the other games that are around the series focus on like being like a Marine going in and shooting, defending. Like, they're shooters, right? Alien Isolation takes the horror of the original Alien and kind of turns it up to 11, because now not only are you playing a character being stalked in a space station by the alien, they developed a game that learns your habits and reacts to how you play.
Oh, I like that.
Right? So obviously there's interactions, the way your character's moving. The alien. So every time you play it, it's going to be completely different, right?
Yeah. And
you have to stalk and you have to hide. You can't kill. You don't have a gun. You have weapons, but you can't just kill them. You have to hide to when you hear it coming, and you got the scanner and it's like stalking you.
Jurassic Park raptor stuff.
The game literally listens to your mic.
Yeah. That's
And like,
cool.
so it really is like it's basically like it's gone from this horror franchise into this massive sci-fi universe, but they're telling these isolated stories now, which are taking it back into horror, which I really like. I guess that was kind of my thesis that I wanted to express this video, this
Well,
podcast. So.
I find it interesting that you brought the game up because, as you know, I don't play games for various reasons. I do love them. But I used to watch a friend of mine because she was a huge gamer. She played one of the Alien movies, and that was like 13 years ago. And she used to play the crap out of it. And I don't know if it's obviously part of the same series, but it was so scary to watch. And she screamed so often. And I really loved it. So I can only imagine how much it's evolved since then.
Yeah, isolation took it to like the next level, which
Yeah.
I really like, and it's one of those things that I'll bang on about for hours if you let
Yeah.
me, as I just did. I'll try and play it myself a little bit, but I like watching play because it's different every time,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah, that's what's
Yeah.
so cool about it, right? It's like taking Harvest Moon to the next horror level.
Exactly.
Because that was like one of the first games, I think, that everything was catered towards every single decision you made. I can't remember, but
I don't know if it was one of the first, but they took. I mean, Alien Isolation. It definitely took those like that aspect of game design
yeah,
and put it probably to the best use I've ever seen it put.
yeah. Well, that sounds really cool, and makes me want to
Yeah.
play it.
I,
If I had access to sorry, I shouldn't even say this. I have a PS3, and I
yeah.
I used to have a GameCube, but I gave it to my nephew, and that's my technological excitement in terms of gaming consoles. Because my computer, there's no way I could ever play a game on any of the computers I have.
The thing about Alien Isolation is that the whole purpose of the game design is that no one can be good at it.
Yeah, it learns.
Right?
So,
It
yeah.
learns from you. Like it's there to defeat you. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, if I had access to be able to play it for free whenever, that'd be cool. But I don't have that capability. I'll go watch. You know what? Maybe I'll go on Twitch and watch some people play tonight because that'd be cool.
Yeah, you should. It's
Yeah.
it's fast. It's a fascinating game.
Hi, a bit of a wardrobe change because we had to take a break, because our lives are totally normal. Yeah, so I am really excited to talk about my favorite franchise. Kind of a sour story about this, actually, but Nightmare on Elm Street VHS
Yeah.
collection, because I'm so cool and have a VCR. I actually don't have the first VHS. I have the I have the case, but no movie. And it's because I had decided to run away from my life. Right after watching that movie on VHS and a VCR, I left my VCR and everything. I just said fuck it, So, yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the original. But you never know. Maybe I'll find it at a store somewhere. Or maybe someone will see this podcast and, like, get it for me.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So,
I'm sure you can find it somewhere.
not the VHS. It's really tough, but I mean, DVD's no problem. I actually have. I'll put this up right now. I have the DVD, the first 4 movies, which I almost convinced my housemate to watch with me, but by the time we got to the 4th one, he was like, "Oh no." That's fine. They're not for everybody. So when I first watched the series, I was under 5, I'm sure, when I watched the first movie, and I loved Freddy. I thought he was the greatest, but I was scared of him, obviously. And my brother's friends always used to make fun of me that he would come kill me in my sleep and all that stuff. And then I made the assumption, or I don't know. I just thought love trumped all as a child. Pfft, silly me. And I was like, well, man, if I can convince him to fall I'm like, child, right? Convince him to fall in love with me and we get married, he won't kill me, right? Totally not. And then I watched Freddy's Dead, where he kills his wife, so shattered. So I was introduced to this series as a kid with my brothers. We used to rent a lot of movies, and we usually would try to rent like a whole series of movies and watch them. And Nightmare on Elm Street was the one I would always gravitate to because it was a little kind of goofy and funny. But it's the special effects that get me. Like, I'm sure there's other series that maybe I haven't explored enough or haven't heard enough about that I have been interested enough to watch the whole series to see the special effects. I mean, the Hellraiser series, sure. Lots of really crazy, cool, supernatural things happening in that series. But Nightmare on Elm Street, I just feel like the practical effects, they really went above and beyond because they're not just cheesy, they're done really well. The mechanics behind them, the visual effects, you can tell they put a lot of work into them, and they made them pretty top quality because I believe they reuse a lot of these props. And just like the crazy stuff you see. I think the last episode we did, I was talking about when it's like this giant Freddy snake thing coming out of the wall trying to eat somebody. Like, that's crazy. They actually had to make that to scale. Like, because the actress, Patricia Arquette, had to go inside of it, right? Like, that's so cool. Like, I wonder if they took, some notes from the Jaws movie for the animatronics, but
I'm sure like there was a whole like community of like special effects designers that were probably all talking to each other about what they were doing and how to do it at the time.
Or like even just stealing ideas like, ooh, how did they do that? Let's figure out how to do it for ourselves. And then of course
like magicians taking tricks.
I mean, honestly, it is like magic. I mean, it's called movie magic for a reason, right? And actually, I know you can't see me, Robin, but anybody who actually goes on the YouTube and watches this can see this, and they're going to really appreciate this. I got this amazing sweater, and it will be recognizable from one of the Freddy movies. And it is, it's black and red. It's not green and red, but that's okay. She made a sweater, and I had been looking at it for years. Like, I was obsessed with it. I was like, I need to buy it. And she would kind of like hold it for me, but like if somebody was going to buy it, she was going to sell it to them, right? Anyway, the reveal is it's the fucking soul pizza that Freddy has, but it's like a combination. So there's two scenes. One of them is where he's eating a pizza with like a bunch of souls as meatballs, which is kind of like what the shirt is, what the sweater is representing. But it's also representing, I believe in Dream Child or Dream Warrior, when he like lifts his shirt up to show the antagonist all the souls of her friends that he's eaten or that he's killed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like a combination of the two scenes that I really like that. I'm never gonna it's gonna be so hard to find places to wear it.
No, I mean wear it wherever. You can't
just to dinner. I'll go. Yeah. Next time I go on a date, that's what I'll wear. I thought that those were really, really interesting. And then the scene, because they did a lot of really groundbreaking scenes in that series. The first movie where they do the rotating room for the two scenes where Glenn gets pulled into the bed and where Tina, they use the same room for both. I didn't realize that. The one where Tina's up in the ceiling and everything, getting her shit sliced open. Yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, that's an expensive prop. You're not going to use it.
Yeah. I don't know if they ended up doing anything with it after, but I know that they had so much of that red blood stuff, so much of it, that it was excessive. Yeah. It was on an episode of Movies That Made Us or something. They did a horror series. They did Friday the 13th and all that. That scene, and then the final girls that they always pick, I feel like they're always really great, and they're always doubled up a little bit, except for Kristen because she was replaced. Patricia Arquette was replaced by another actress, and then her character was pretty short-lived in the next movie that she was in. But Heather Langenkamp, she comes back a few times, which is awesome. I feel like she's kind of the main final girl because she escaped Freddy more than anybody, and understood how he worked. And Freddy ended up almost resenting her for it and trying extra hard to get to her to the point where he kills her dad and everything. And the other people that she's trying to help, she like inspires them. So I really like Heather. I really like Nancy as a final girl, and then the other ones are pretty awesome as well. I love Alice. She's great. I feel like she's far more on the supernatural side of things. So I love that they started off with Heather being like just a regular old teenage girl, curious, very curious. Always wanting to understand how things work. I feel like that's why I was inspired a lot by Heather as a kid, because I was always like that. It's like, wait a second, no, if this is happening and this is happening, then it makes no sense that this is the reason. So like, what the hell? And she was trying to find everything out, trying to do whatever she could to fight this guy or find out or prove that he was real. Like, she was tenacious as fuck, and I really liked that. And then
that's really good. Like, that's really, like, making your audience like connect with a character in that way is super important.
And like, not just connect, but like be inspired by, because obviously Sarah Connor was a totally different type of like inspirational female figure, because you're like, oh my god, this woman is so fucking badass, but also believes that love is the most weakest thing you can have. Like, no emotion. But then Heather is just like, no, it's like, this is real and we need to stop him and you guys need to take me fucking seriously. Like to the point where she becomes a psychologist and everything to help people, that if in case he comes back again. Very parallel to Sarah actually in that way, because she was prepping herself for in between the first movie and the second movie for the re-arrival. And then when they introduced Kristen, Patricia Arquette's character, first of all, Dream Warriors 3 seems to be like one of the most popular movies for everybody as a favorite. It's definitely been my favorite, probably because there's so much going on in it. But I mean, Lawrence Fishburne's in it. That helps.
That always helps.
Yeah, and they have a lot more going on for the substance of the story, in my opinion, without it being too supernatural. It definitely sticks to the same theme as the first movie, because the second movie's just like totally fucking out there. I shouldn't say out there, but it's like, it's almost like a standalone film, like almost like a fan film for the series. Have you seen the second one?
I've seen it, but it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I do remember watching it. And no, you're right. I see what you mean by that. Like, it's got a very definite like beginning and an ending, and it's very contained.
Yeah. The second one, like I said, it seemed more of like an homage. Freddie was barely in it, because it was mostly about this. I mean, a lot of people talk about the second movie being a commentary on someone battling with their sexuality and like their deviant side and things like that, and trying to hide it from people, and how that can affect you in many ways. I mean, that poor guy, like, it's just like heartbreak. He's just completely battling with his own sanity at all times for the entire movie, and they do a really good job. He does such a good job portraying his character, and I often wonder if he's just like that in real life. But yeah, so I mean, probably. So Kristen, I really liked her character because she kind of made a team. She got everybody on board. She was like, no guys, we need to work together. She really brought people together to work together to actually like discover something. And then she was working with Nancy really closely, and she had this really supernatural ability to pull people into her dreams, which is, honestly, it does kind of make it her fault that other people end up dying after, because she's pulled them all into her dreams, so now Freddy has access to them, right? Which expands his world.
But I mean, expands his lore kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, his reach,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, it's okay. With that, that bleeds into the fourth movie, where Kristen kind of like, it almost seems like she transfers her powers into Alice. Like, not really, but like, and then Alice becomes, they don't really tie into it that much, but Alice almost becomes the main final girl, because it's almost like she sees and understands Freddy a little bit better, and she can predict him a lot better. It's almost like she has some kind of supernatural element to her, and maybe that's why she becomes the Dream Master. Dream Master. So she eventually learns how to defeat Freddy, and he's pretty much like constantly after her. I think the fourth movie, the fifth movie. Just the fourth and the fifth. But he is on a fucking mission. Because with Nancy, he was trying to kill Nancy. With Alice, he is trying to torment her to death. Because he starts with her friends, and then bleeds into other things. And then she's like, well, fuck. And then she is totally devastated, has to start over again. And then he comes back and does the same shit. And, oh my god, anyway, I won't get into it too much, but, like, in the fifth movie, they kind of play an homage to the fifth movie in Freddy, in A New Nightmare. Because in the fifth movie, Freddy kills... So Alice finds out she's pregnant. And then, because of her horrible life and all of her friends dying in the last movie, she has all this ridicule. People think that she had something to do with the deaths of her friends, that she's crazy, that she killed all these people. Like, people are alienating her so badly. And then she finds out she's pregnant, and then Freddy kills her boyfriend, who was, like, the love of her life, who kind of saved her in the fourth... Not saved her, but was part of saving her in the fourth one. So he kills him, her only, like, line of sanity, and then she has all these other, like, new friends, and he fucking kills all them too, to the point where she's like, well, god damn it. I gotta get rid of this guy. And anyway, I really like Alice a lot. Obviously Heather has a soft spot for me, but Alice is just like, she so tenacious, so badass, didn't let him break her down, didn't let him, she was the dream master, for sure.
Yeah.
I know. And then, of course, Freddy's Dead. Have you seen Freddy's Dead?
No, I haven't seen Freddy's Dead.
So,
I've only really seen, like, the only Nightmare on Elm Street movies that I've really, like, interacted with, watched in a way that I can remember was the first one, obviously, the second one, and I think I saw one of the other ones, but I don't remember which. It might have been the third one, but I'm not 100% sure.
oh my god. Am I going to have to come over and we're going to have to watch all of them? Yeah, anyway. Freddy's Dead is the sixth movie. And it's basically about... I mentioned it earlier because in it, you find out that Freddy killed his wife, right?
Sort of like backstory kind of stuff.
Yeah, so the Freddy's Dead is very much like a deep dive backstory type thing. And they don't really get into it, but basically the last of the the last of the Elm Street children is like, he's been put in foster care or something. He's like 17, 18. Or troubled youth. So he's in like this place with these other troubled youth people. And, oh my god. Honestly, Freddy's Dead is one of the favorites for a lot of people because it's so fucking goofy. Like, it's so stupid and goofy and terrible. The whole thing is so ridiculous. And reachy for like reactions and stuff, and like it was like they were trying to make a commentary on pop culture and stuff like that, or like little inside jokes. Like, it was just, it's like so weird. Honestly, the sixth one and the second one are like two very standalone movies. But in the sixth one, because I'm talking about Final Girls, there is a female character in it, the main character. She actually, and sorry for the spoilers, but, you know, obviously we're talking about horror movies we've seen, so didn't talk about crap like that. Yeah. The main character is Freddy's daughter, Freddy's estranged daughter, who was given up for adoption when he was killed. And she didn't know any of this because her mother had been murdered, and she actually, I think, thought that her parents were her real parents and not her adoptive parents. So in that, she finds out that this fucking crazy psycho person might be her father because she's having synchronized dreams with this other Nightmare on Elm Street kid, right? The last kid. So she's like, okay, we have to protect him because he's going to get killed in his sleep. And then she becomes the fucking connector, and then Freddy then gets into her mind, and then he is after the other foster kids that are in her house, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so the reason I like her as a final girl is because she starts off, it's kind of like the opposite, actually, of all the other ones. She starts off as this, like, hard, don't take no fucking shit from anybody, I don't believe in anything spiritual, I only believe things that are right in front of me. Very much like the typical male role in a movie like that, you know? Like, no, you're crazy, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and very, very common way to portray characters in horror movies at the time, too. Like, that you saw that a lot in that became sort of a, I guess you could call it something of like a trope. There's a lot of, in current movies, there's a lot of attempts to sort of have your characters be into the supernatural and know the supernatural and be messing with the supernatural.
Or be curious at least. There's always one kid that has like a fucking Necronomicon or something.
Yeah, exactly. But at the time there was a lot of, and again, they're not every movie, obviously, but it became a bit of a trope to see main characters in particular, who kind of like
Yeah.
didn't believe in anything and sort of ended up experiencing something as a result, or of some supernatural shenanigans that happened to them.
Yeah, it was and it was kind of refreshing that it was like a strong female lead character that was playing that role. Just because at the
Mm.
time you typically would only see that with like the dad, you know, because it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
always the mom that was being emotionally open and crazy to these weird ghosty things happening.
yeah,
Usually, if it's the man that is in that position, it's because he's going through some kind of mental psychosis, like The Shining, right?
yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was actually really cool for me as a young, because I think I was like a young teen when I watched it. I was like,
Mm.
okay, yeah, this is like, I can kind of admire this role. It was cool. And because she went from being like the serious, stern, I don't believe in that stuff, you're crazy, wow, into like,
Yeah.
by the end of it, she was being kind of like goofy and silly, almost like Freddie. It was almost like she was
Yeah.
unknowingly becoming just like him in a way. And I think that that's kind of what
That's
they were
interesting.
getting at the very last scene is like, yes, she's still a social worker. Yes, she still cares about all these kids. Yes, unfortunately, some of them do die because Freddy, you can't really stop him unless you
No.
yourself have an incredibly strong will and like cleverness, intellect. It's like the people that defeat him are just superiorly intelligent people, and it's almost like because of that he's not lonely, so he almost doesn't want them to. He doesn't want to get them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like
No, no, no.
he
He's
enjoys the
after.
chase because they actually reflect
Yeah.
something in him that he admires because he's conceited and a
Yeah.
narcissist.
And they give him well, and they give him a challenge. I guess they give him a challenge too. It's like a
Yeah,
hunt,
you have
you
to kill
know.
your daughter, or not kill your daughter, but you have to convert her or whatever. I think the
Yeah.
deal he was trying to make was that he could stop killing if she started, like if she took over for him.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
so
So he's trying to.
it's
So you
been
could
so
see.
long.
I
Yeah,
guess the tension. Some of that tension came from seeing her starting to make that change,
hmm
and you're like, oh, is she gonna become the new, the new
yeah.
Freddy or something? Yeah.
I mean, obviously she doesn't like torture and murder children, but there's time. There's still time.
Well, that's the thing. If she became the new Freddy, if she fell down that slope, so to speak,
Yeah,
would she become the torturer
exactly.
and the tormentor?
Is she
Yeah.
gonna descend into some type of madness and need to hurt people to feel better because of what she just went through? Because that's the whole like, and I will fucking ugh. I guess I'll mention it. I'm gonna talk about A New Nightmare here in a second, but I
All right.
want to talk about the remake real quick. Did we watch that? I watched it with some people in theater.
No, I don't think I saw it in the theater. I may have actually. Now that I think about it, I may have seen it somewhere, but it wasn't in the theater.
Yeah,
So that add that to my Nightmare on Elm Street
I think I
cred. But I
I think I
don't
watched it with
100%.
Renee. She knows how much I love Freddy. Um,
Yeah.
but so I went in really excited because the dude who played Rorschach was playing Freddy, and I was like, I can see
Mm,
it. Okay, I'm excited for this. So I'm
yeah.
excited with the idea of like this fresh new concept. I'm not one of those people that like when I hear a remake, I'm like, oh god. I mean, I'm becoming one of them because they've been so bad.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I went in there with high hopes. I shouldn't have. I think what really upset me was like originally when Wes Craven wrote the Freddy series, he was gonna make Freddy because he just wanted to think about the most evil, sadistic piece of shit he could think of, which was to him. And that was the idea, but they were worried that people wouldn't want to watch the movie because of that.
Right.
Because it's a yeah, that's fucked up. And like even though people are like, yeah, it's real, yeah, it's evil, yeah, we want to fight against it, they would rather pretend it's not really happening.
Oh
So
yeah.
they took that out of the script for a couple reasons. One, it took away from his character development, and it also gave it like a gross feeling, but also for that reason. So
Yeah.
there's probably more going on. I mean, I don't know everything, despite how I present myself. um,
You would never know.
yeah. I'm really good at pretending I know everything, except when I'm not good at pretending that. Yeah, so when they were like, and they didn't even, what's annoying to me is that they're like, oh, we're gonna go with the element of suspense. It's like there was like very little suspense in the entire franchise. Don't get me wrong, there was tension and minor suspense because you don't know when he's gonna pop up out of nowhere in your dream. But like the weird like non-visual suspense scenes that they threw in there, were just like, what? Did they just get lazy and didn't want to have to write a scene? Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah,
And then when they discover that he was them as kids, like they don't they're I feel like that would have been something talked about in the town, that those kids were being victims, because in the original series those kids were all born after, or they might have been really little at the time, but they were too little to be involved being babysat by some guy who works at a fucking factory, that's for sure.
Yeah. So did just as a
Yeah.
question, from because you know the series way better than I do, because I don't remember much about that particular movie. Did they? I mean, was it like a retcon? Did they actually retcon some of that, or was it just non-intentional?
Like he specifically said that he decided to not make him a, and he just tortured and killed kids instead. But then they threw it into but then they threw it into the remake that he was.
Yeah, that's what I mean. In the remake, they sort of retcon things that weren't in the original.
Yeah,
but series,
it was like they were trying to revive it, but they did it really badly. They were like, "Oh, let's go with the original concept, but like not think about anything and not make it."
Yeah, like not make it have an impact, basically.
Yeah, it seemed like a lazy grab. I know it seems kind of silly, but that's how it felt. Like, oh, one shocking scene. Okay, you don't even like. They just look at some pictures and go, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no weird scene that insinuates anything. There's no flashback. There's no dream sequence. Those are all things that are pretty prominent whenever anyone's finding anything out or figuring things out. Those are always very prominent in the other movies.
Yeah.
Very cryptic, but not super suspenseful.
I feel like it would almost be better to learn about that from one or two of the other characters' perspectives through the movie, rather than just one scene where they
discover it.
Like, you know,
I think they're
a piece of exposition. Like, here's some exposition for you.
They were trying to recreate the scene in the first movie when Nancy's mom takes the glove out of the furnace and shows her, I think.
Right.
But like, fucking okay, you just completely changed the scene entirely and had totally different people there, and then. Not to mention in the first movie, because it was meant to be a remake. In the first movie, nobody takes Nancy seriously. Nobody. Not one fucking person. No. Not Glenn. Yeah. Not her best friend. Not her best friend's boy. Well, he eventually does because he knows that there's something fucking crazy happening, but he ends up getting killed too. Yeah. But like, nobody takes her seriously at all. Whereas in the remake, her boyfriend's like, yeah, I'm totally on board with everything, and I totally know what's going on. I'm totally going to help you, and I totally... Like, Glenn, like, humored her. He's like, yeah, okay, sure. Right, but he didn't take her seriously. Like, he didn't care.
Like, like in the first movie, they built the tension by showing her isolation because no one believed her. But in the new one, they just...
It was like
it was more about like...
It was like they were trying to make Archie as like a horror, as a Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, or like some fucking Scooby-Doo bullshit. I don't know. It was really bad.
Don't badmouth Scooby-Doo in front of me.
Listen, they failed Scooby-Doo is what I'm trying to say.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I was not impressed. I was really annoyed, and I'm still annoyed by that movie. I actually went on Letterboxd and gave it a 1 star. I was like, fuck this movie. Normally, I just wouldn't rate it, but whatever. The New Nightmare, which is another standalone film, but not in the same way that the second and the sixth one are, like Freddy's Dead and what's it called? What was that one fucking called? Freddy's Revenge is the second one. What the second one was called, which makes no sense.
I mean, it's all Freddy's. The whole series might as well be called Freddy's Revenge.
I was gonna say the second one should be called Freddy's Penetration or something.
Yeah. That's true.
I know. Lots of. It's known to be a very like queer movie, but it's up in the air with a lot of people. I personally think it's pretty queer movie. It's very like sexually open. The whole movie, like everything is kind of like sexually suggestive. Everything, like even death sometimes, like. So I like
but not in a way that's like shameful or something.
No. Not in that, maybe in a way that's like, I'm a little embarrassed, or this is very concealing, or like, this is an exciting moment, but never in like in a Yeah, never in like a ridicule type of way by any means.
No,
Yeah.
that was another big, because that obviously was another trope of
Yeah.
movies made back in this through the '60s through the '80s and '90s, was sexuality was played as sinful. Therefore, the characters who, well, we all know the trope: you don't have sex in a horror movie because it means you're going to get killed, right?
Yeah.
So like that was a theme from older movies. So it's they were
Sexual
playing,
deviance, yeah.
yeah, they were playing with that a little bit in a way that it was different.
It's funny. Yeah, I will talk about Freddy's Revenge a little bit more because there's some scenes in it that, like, you're like, what is going on? So, in it, there's this girl who is, like, desperate to sleep with the main character. And I mean, like, she's like,
Yeah,
oh man, we need to be alone together. I just want to jump inside of your mouth. Like, she's just like that with him. And he is honestly like so preoccupied and stressed out with this whole like being possessed thing that he can't pay attention ever. Every time they have an intimate scene, every time they're like getting it on or whatever, he has like this weird panic of like, I can't. Because it's
yeah,
reminding me of who I'm becoming or who I really am. And I can't face
right,
this right now. And it's like she's like so upset and disappointed. By the end of it, it's her caring about him that pulls him out of the possession. But
right.
honestly, by the end of it, you don't feel much of a romantic connection between the two of them. It's far more like, I know this sounds silly, but as a straight woman, we've all been there where we have a crush on one guy and it turns out he's gay, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, wait, but we get along really. We're best friends now. So it's
Yeah,
like she became like his bestie by the end of it, right?
yeah.
So
Well, it's sort of like like trauma bonding doesn't really
yeah,
lead to a lasting relationship.
yeah, that
Yeah,
too.
so that,
So I thought that was kind of a cool way for them to, because it's very clever. Obviously, it wasn't intentional, I don't believe, or at least they're never going to
no,
admit that it was. But
no.
like a lot of people interpreted a lot of those scenes in the same way, and yeah, I definitely like think of it often as like kind of like a coming of age sex curiosity type thing movie.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then, yeah, I was going to mention in A New Nightmare. So, A New Nightmare is very much a standalone movie because it's meant to be. It's specifically meant to be a standalone movie. I don't know if you know
yeah.
much about it, but it's
Not, I haven't seen it. I barely even come across it. So
okay. Well,
yeah, I
the
don't
the
know.
con the concept of it, because I do feel like not a lot of people saw it. Because it actually, let me take a look at when it came out. So, A New Nightmare. Well, I'm looking at the back of a VHS, so it's even like more horrible.
I mean, I have it. I think I have it open on IMDb. It looks like it's 1994.
Okay, thank you. So,
Just in
1994.
case your eyes not working.
And then when Freddy's Dead came out,
Yeah,
I was just thinking because A New Nightmare just seems so modern compared to the rest of them. But The New Nightmare, the whole idea is that Wes Craven, because it's a fourth wall movie, is
yeah,
dying or is gonna die, and he's like, "Oh, I just wanted to write this one last script for you, Heather," and he gives Heather then the script for A New Nightmare, and essentially,
yeah,
like as she's reading it, I'm not positive, but I think some of the things that she's written are happening, and then all of a sudden she goes to
right,
see him, and he's passed away. So she's like, "What the hell?" And then she talks to her husband because her husband's a special effects artist that worked on the Freddy movies, and then they're chatting or whatever, and then what I was mentioning from I think the fifth movie where Alice's boyfriend gets killed, this almost the exact same scene is recreated in A New Nightmare with Heather's husband, right?
okay, yeah,
And Heather has a little boy, and so it's just like this woman and her son are trying to like understand what's going on, and she's not thinking much of it because she's just an actress, right?
yeah,
But then the more she reads the script that Wes dropped off, and the more she thinks about all this other stuff, she's like, this is so weird. Like, she finds out about how her husband died, and he had 4 razor-like slashes, that kind of stuff. So she's like,
oh
what the
yeah,
fuck is going on? Because he was driving when he got killed. So it's not like he crashed into something and that's what happened. And of
no,
course, nothing is. It's the same. It's very parallel to the first movie because no one is believing a fucking word that is coming out of her mouth. They think that she's just
yeah,
hysterical. and then they keep trying to take her son away from her because she's not fit to be a mom because of what she's saying and being crazy about.
Yeah.
And like her husband just got murdered, her mentor just died, or her husband died in a car accident, sorry. So it's like this huge like mental, and sadly enough, unfortunately, Robin, these are huge commentaries on existing as a woman, because oftentimes we're not taken seriously. We're even by our own fellow women. We're told that we're crazy, we're hysterical, we're delusional, we don't know what we're talking about, because we're trusting our intuition and we don't always understand what's going on. So we're talking to people to find out, but they don't want to think about it either. So they're like, "You're crazy, don't talk to me." And like almost all of these movies kind of have something like that in them, where the women are being ridiculed and pushed aside. And in the first movie, they had a little bit of that with the one of the guys, the Tina's boyfriend, Rod, because everybody thought that he murdered her, right? And that's the typical male dilemma when tragedy strikes, is like they're almost always the first suspect. So he's like, I didn't kill her, and that's when he starts to like talk about the supernatural creature, and everyone's like, "You're okay, sir, sure, sir." Like, and then he dies pretty quickly after, of course, right before Nancy saves him. And yeah, that commentary is great. And then in the so I really like the parallels between the first movie and the last movie, because it seems like Wes was like, "Heather, you're fucking great. We need to bring you back. Let's make another movie. Let's do this one." So in the first one, she's trying to do something, and she's in her dreams. And she needs to get somewhere. She's trying to find Glenn, or she's trying to find Tina in her dream. And then this girl's like, "Where's your pass? Like your hall pass?" And she just goes, "Screw your pass." Right? That's all she says. She just goes, "Screw your pass." Like fucking teenagers, right? She didn't even swear. So in the new Nightmare, she's in the hospital because she's being treated for a wound that Freddy inflicted on her that they think is a suicidal. They think she tried to kill herself. And they're trying to keep her son away from her, so she's trying to find her son. And someone's like, "Where's your pass?" And she's like, "Fuck your pass."
Nice.
It's so good.
Nice. I love it.
I also think Freddy's nurse scene is recreated in that one too, but I can't remember. Anyway, I really like the new Nightmare because they have a lot of homages to like the original movie, and then a couple segments in throughout them. And as its own film, I really like watching it, but I never think of it as part of the series.
No, it's like, really easy. It's really easy to, it's really easy to overdo homages.
Yeah, and like you can. There's just something about Heather, like she hasn't done a lot, but she's really authentic in her roles, and I just really like how much oomph she brings to every moment, because she really does have that like female, oh my fucking godness to her. I really like that. You don't see it portrayed very well in a lot of stuff. Like you see people being over the top, especially women, like being over the top, being really intense, being really direct, and like being kind of like intimidating, or like, what's the word, aggressive. But Heather does it in such a way that's very like, you know, when your mom is fucking done with your shit. She does it so well. So I think if she wasn't in that movie, it wouldn't be as great to me. The new Nightmare. And then there's one more, because I know there's so many. I think there's another one actually. There's also a TV show I haven't watched that has him in it.
Yeah. Well, that was largely the point of this episode, which is like how these movies have evolved into these massive.
Yeah. Well, I think Robert Englund who is even in the TV show, but I honestly haven't looked that much into it because busy. But I only heard about it like in the last year, and I'd really love to check it out. But I do love that Robert Englund plays Freddy in every movie, except for obviously the remake.
Yeah.
And then there's Freddy vs. Jason, which I watched as a teenager.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, of course.
One of the reasons I liked it was because it had Tripp from Detroit Rock City in it. And for some reason, even though he's like such a fucking oaf, I love him in everything that he's in.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's just funny to me. I like what he brings to the table, even if it's always like very comic relief. But
Yeah.
did you watch Freddy versus Jason?
I'm sure I did at some point, but I don't remember much about it.
I'll just give
Yeah.
you a basic rundown of it. I really like the concept of it because it's really unique, and they definitely stay true to like the cheesy goofiness, but they go way over the top with it in this movie. Like, it's way cheesier than any, in my opinion, any of the other other Friday the 13th movies. It's way cheesier than any of the other Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I even find it cheesier than
Yeah.
Jason X, and that's really hard. That's
That
hard to
yeah,
do.
you know what? I did see Jason X, and you're 100% right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I really like that they play on the roles of Jason never talking and Freddy fucking never shutting the fuck up. Which is also, I have to say, like, I don't know how many other people there are. Like, Hellraiser, Pinhead, yeah, he would go on his fucking monologues and he'd fall asleep halfway through. But Freddy just,
Yeah.
like, never shuts the fuck up. Like, it's always, like, some random nonsense bullshit. I don't really know
Yeah.
any other.
He's like a Ryan Reynolds character.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. I don't know what other antagonists for horror films are like that. Especially not ones that have like a costume and like a backstory and like a whole supernatural element type thing to them. Not for a franchise anyway.
No.
I'd say the
You know,
closest might be Wishmaster.
I almost feel like maybe he had some inspiration on the character of like Beetlejuice
Oh,
in a
definitely.
way. In that way. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But no, because Beetlejuice came out after that.
That's what I mean. He had inspiration
Oh,
like
on Beetlejuice, yeah, yeah, that's
inspired.
fair.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Especially Ethereal Plane, that kind of stuff. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
But just the comedic non shutting up sort of like always has something to say kind of thing.
yes, exactly. And I have to mention this about Freddy versus Jason because one of my biggest criticisms of movies is when they're lazy and they didn't have to
Yeah.
be. And it's like, you can't
I
just ride on the wave of the name of the franchise forever. Like, you have to put something in there.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
they did a great job, in my opinion. Like, it's so cheesy and stupid, and I don't think I'll ever watch. Well, I might watch it again, but we'll see. I like that not only did they play on the whole Jason never talking and Freddy never shutting up, but then you also have a villain in the 3D, and then a villain in the dream world, right? So you're gonna fucking battle everybody, and they have this like in the movie. There's this newly developed sleeping pill that you don't sleep or you don't dream. I can't remember what it is. I think it's like you sleep but you don't dream, so you're like basically in a coma. Um,
Yeah.
and these kids are like trying to like get their hands on these pills so they don't fucking die.
Yeah, of course.
So there's a mission in it that's outside of getting away from or killing or defeating these villains. There's many goals. There's multiple antagonists, and there's like the really stupid, goofy, useless characters as well. You know, that always manage
Yeah.
to survive. And they kind of have like a scream element in it. Like, they definitely took all the modern horror movies from that time and like kind of took a
Yeah.
little bit from all of them and threw them into the Freddy versus Jason. Yeah, Freddy versus Jason came out after, I think, Jason Goes to Hell because that's where they meet or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was like the backstory for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the backstory, but I don't really care. Like, it's not. It doesn't affect how much I like anything.
The backstory in that movie isn't important. It's just like it's
Yeah.
just like a device to get you there, to get you to like the craziness.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Like, I shouldn't have said that because I love the layers and the backstory and the interconnected, woven crap happening and stuff. Like, it's so satisfying to me when I see something in one movie that's clearly from another. Like watching Sinners. But there were so many
Yeah.
things happening in it that I was like, oh my god, that's in reference to this. Oh my god, that's in reference to this. Oh my god, that's in reference to this. Whether it's in real life or another movie, I just really love that. If you can be clever enough to fit it in a tasteful way, or clever enough to fit it in at all, really, I really like seeing that kind of stuff in movies. And
Yeah, you don't want to hit
yeah,
people over the head with it, but you want
yeah,
like
the subtle,
fans of the you
yeah,
want fans of the thing that you're putting in there to get it, but you don't need everyone to get it, so you don't have to be super
yeah.
blunt with it.
Like I watched T2 recently. I think I talked about that before, actually. And there's so many things in that became references in movies after that I thought that those references were from the other movie, but they're actually from Terminator 2.
Yeah, that
I
makes
thought that was kind of neat. But yeah, I do really like it when when there's like, especially between two different franchises. Oh my god, I love it when
Yeah,
they do the crossover stuff with that kind of thing.
it really sort of expands the franchise too. It gives
Yeah.
it room to sort of expand a bit more. Yeah, like they did with, like, as I was saying earlier in this episode, like with the way they expanded the Alien
Hmm.
story by adding the sort of Predator universe into the whole thing.
Yeah, and how that's become almost like enmeshed at this
Well,
point.
they're inseparable, and now like
Yeah.
the Predator story is part of the Alien backstory, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like some kind of millennia long whatever that would be connection. Yeah, I do have to say the Freddy Jason thing is very light connected, but I think some people believe that Freddy might be Jason's son or something, a strange son.
Yeah, those kind of headcanons sort of make things like you can do it in a way that like people can have their own headcanon and it works well, and you don't have to like shove it in their faces kind of thing. When you were talking about the remake, you were talking about the 2010 one, right?
Yeah,
I'm just I got a bunch of them up on screen. I'm just looking through.
I'll close it up on this because this is really the last thing I want to mention. One thing I really like about the Freddy series and how unique it is, in my opinion, is that while you are very aware that he has some supernatural ability to get into people's dreams and be able to kill them while they're sleeping,
Yeah.
um, it doesn't draw attention to the fact that every time he's in your dreams, you are in his subconscious. And
Oh yeah, that's it.
you don't really pick up on that right away, but you do when you start to pay more attention to what the final girls are doing when they're in these scenarios. Because I don't remember, I think it might have been Kristen, not Nancy, but they walk into this house full of these little girls, and then they try to save one of them, and they pick her up and try to run with her, and they can't because their feet are going through the floor because it's a dream.
Yeah.
Which is like one of the most relatable scenes ever. Actually, I should have mentioned it in the scenes that stuck with us because it's incredible. She's trying to run up or down the stairs, and her feet are getting stuck. I think it's Nancy, and her feet are getting stuck in the stairs because they've turned into like quicksand or mud or something. How relatable is that, right? Like, we've all had dreams where we're like, our feet can't move, or like we can't punch stuff. Like,
Dreams or
yeah.
at least like a fear or something where that was like a feeling. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know, she looks down at the little girl she picked up to save is dead, because it's a horrible dream. But like, she wouldn't have seen or known any of that stuff.
Right. It's coming from
Yeah.
him.
It's coming from him.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of scenes like that, like when Kristen is learning more about him. There's so many scenes with her living in his past or living around the children he's killed that she picks up on a lot of like who he is, but it's not clicking for her yet. Like, she's picking up on it and she's figuring some stuff out, but for the most part Kristen is like just in survival mode the whole damn time, until she eventually dies. Then when Alice takes over, that's when you start to see her harness the fact that she's paying attention and she can see, oh, this and this and this, and oh, okay. And then finally when it gets to his daughter, I can't remember her name, in number 6, she finally sees the connection between she's in his subconscious when he's in her dream state. So she knows now that she can manipulate his world while he manipulates hers. And it was like the whole series was kind of like leading up to that point. I don't know if it was intentional. Maybe I'm crazy. I know we've confirmed that I likely am. But it was just really cool to like see that gradual, like, okay, it's like how history works. Okay, we did this experiment and it didn't give us the result we wanted. So let's just leave it at that. Oh, they did this experiment and it gave them this result. Well, let me see if it'll give me this result. And then it's like the whole evolution of technology. Like, that's kind of how we do stuff. We take someone's old projects that they abandoned and we say, maybe I can work with this. And then we make something that works, and then so on and so forth. It evolves and changes, and we learn more. The more people look at it, the more... Because the information was always there. It just took the right amount of attention to put the pieces together.
Yeah, like one person might get too, you focus on one path. It takes someone else to come along and see that there's another path that will take you where you want to go, kind of thing.
Yeah, it was almost like, again, this term wasn't a thing at the time, but it's almost like the evolution of a cycle breaking thing. It's like, oh, this horrible thing's happening to me. Oh, well, I guess I'll just survive. Oh, this horrible thing's happening to me. I guess I'll fight back and survive. Oh, this horrible thing's happening to me. I guess I'll find a solution, fight back, survive. And then it eventually gets to a point where it's like, I fucking got this. I know I will survive.
Especially when you're in like such a like with it when you're watching a movie like that, you're in the sort of dark, scary world. It's good to see characters sort of be like
Well,
change for the like,
yeah.
turn their pain into something
Well, plus
useful.
they're paying attention and they're saying, okay, I'm scared. What can I do for myself to protect myself? What can I do to make this less scary for me? And having the ability to think that at all is actually pretty crazy, because a lot of people would usually just be like, well, I'm dead, whatever. But having the ability to consciously like see the situation you're in and decide, okay, I need to figure out how to survive or fight back or whatever. I like that they really put you in those moments in a lot of these movies, especially with Freddy, because like it's pretty rare that you see anybody just like let him kill them.
No, there's definitely some fighting back, and that's what makes a lot of movies like the Evil Dead movies are so iconic. Not because of the monsters, but because Ash becomes this giant chainsaw-armed demon of a man who fights back against the horrors rather than just getting into them.
And rallies other people up as well, because I think by the time he gets to that realm, everyone's just like, yeah, evil's just a thing that happens.
Yeah.
And he's like, it doesn't have to, though.
No, exactly. It's like an inspirational thing.
Yeah, I guess I've said all I need to say about the series, which is probably not true. I'm sure that more things will come up at some point. But I think I've talked enough. I've talked everybody's ears off, including my own. But the sweater's really cool. I'll send you a picture. Yeah, I guess that's it for the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff for me. And we'll wrap this up. And yeah, not that it will reach everybody's ears in time, because we do record quite far out before we post. But next week I am doing a horror trivia event with Wednesday Whiz Quiz Trivia. And it's going to be really fun. And I believe at some point before the fall I'll be doing a screening with the local screening group Thrillema, ideally. So that'll be cool. And otherwise, yeah, just follow Halifax Horror Fest and Twisted Bunny, and you'll see the cool things that are going on.
All right. Well, it's been great. We'll do some more. I'm looking forward to next week's episode as well. Find me, Baron Iron Eye, YouTube and all that stuff. I will see you guys all later.
All right.
Bye, Brandy.
Goodbye.